Fog rolled through the sleeping town of Cold Hollow like breath from an unseen mouth, wrapping around the steeple of the old St. Adalbert's Church. No one had heard its bell ring in 50 years until that night. The sound came like a scream in slow motion, heavy and metallic, echoing through every home. Windows rattled, dogs howled, and old clocks stopped ticking. Sheriff Mason woke with his heart pounding and a strange chill that felt older than death. He grabbed his coat and drove through the mist to the church, headlights slicing through the fog. The bell rope swayed on its own, the sound still hanging in the air. No footprints, no intruders, yet the air smelled of smoke and iron. The church doors, locked for decades, stood wide open. Inside, candle wax dripped on the floor though no one had lit a flame in years. A voice whispered his name, faint but sure, from the empty pews. That was when Mason knew the dead weren't resting anymore. The next day, Sheriff Mason returned to the church with the local caretaker, old Mr. Willis, who trembled as they entered the dusty office behind the altar. Inside a locked drawer, they found the ledger of Pastor Williams, the last priest before the church closed. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded, but each line carried a name and a date, all ending with a red cross. The final page was blank, dated tomorrow. Willis swore the ledger had been sealed away for decades. Mason tried to shake the unease, telling himself it was just coincidence. But when he left, he noticed a mother crying by the roadside. Her young son, Ben, had disappeared walking home from school. The sun fell, and Mason returned to the ledger. The blank line now had a name written in fresh ink, Ben Willis. His flashlight flickered, and outside, the bell rang again, slow and hollow. The next morning, they found Ben's bicycle near the river, but no trace of Ben. That night, the bell tolled again, but this time Mason stood beneath it, determined to see what made it move. He and Emma, a local journalist chasing strange stories, climbed the rotting wooden steps. Each footstep echoed like it was answered from below. When they reached the top, the rope moved violently. Though there was no wind, no hands touching it. Emma held her recorder close, capturing every sound. The bell tolled 3 times, and each strike left Mason's ears ringing with something that wasn't just sound, it was words. His name, Mason. The letters scratched themselves faintly into the dust by his boots. He stared at them, heart hammering, while Emma screamed. Behind her, a shadow leaned out from the wall, shaped like a man in a priest's robe, face hidden. The rope stopped moving. Silence swallowed the air. Then, in the far distance, sirens wailed, another death in Cold Hollow. Days passed without sleep. Emma replayed her recordings from the tower and discovered whispers hidden beneath the tolling bell. They were confessions, voices of townspeople long dead, speaking through static. The words grew clearer with every play. Forgive us. Save our souls. But one night, Mason heard something new. The recording said his own name again, followed by a slow, gasping breath. He threw the recorder away, but the whisper followed him. The church's confessional booth began leaking dark water, though no rain had fallen in weeks. When Emma opened it, she found tapes stacked inside, labeled with the names from the pastor's ledger. She played the last one. The voice was young, Ben's voice, begging not to be forgotten. The candlelight flickered, and the confessional door creaked open on its own. Mason stepped back as the tape snapped, and for a second, he swore someone exhaled behind him. Emma uncovered old photographs showing a funeral procession of hundreds outside St. Adalbert's. But the town's records showed no such event. They decided to dig beneath the church, breaking into the earth below the altar. The soil was soft, warm, as if something below was breathing. They uncovered rows of coffins, beautifully crafted but all empty. Inside one lay a rusted church bell clapper, blackened by fire. The air turned icy, and the walls seemed to breathe. As Mason touched the clapper, every bell in the town, churches, schools, even doorbells, rang at once. The sound rose into a scream that seemed to shake the world apart. When it stopped, the moonlight vanished. Shadows moved outside the windows, figures of the dead, watching, waiting for the next toll. The historian Emma Broaden claimed Cold Hollow had burned down in 1899. Everyone had perished in a church fire, trapped during Mass. The government rebuilt the town, but the original citizens' names were nowhere in national archives. Emma's research hinted that the entire town might be a mirror, a second version of itself made of lost souls clinging to a bell that would not stop calling. Mason realized something horrifying. Each person who died since the bell first rang was a spirit reclaimed by time. The dead weren't invading Cold Hollow, they were reclaiming it. The people living there didn't belong. The church's bell was their heartbeat, and it was slowing down. As the storm raged over Cold Hollow, Mason returned to St. Adalbert's, finding the ghost of Pastor Williams waiting in the pulpit. The old preacher's voice was hollow, filled with grief. "I never buried them," he said, eyes black with ash. "I kept them alive with prayer and the bell." Mason begged him to stop the curse, but the pastor smiled faintly. "Break the bell," he whispered, "and everything it holds will be free." The air turned cold as the dead pressed their faces against the church windows, whispering through the glass. Mason raised his shotgun at the bell, knowing it would mean his death, or worse. The storm howled. The ropes moved. The dead began to sing to "At Dawn." Mason and Emma climbed the tower one last time. The town below was silent, frozen in time. Mason swung the axe, striking the bell with all his strength. The crack echoed like thunder. The sound stopped, and so did the world. Emma fell to her knees as the streets below turned to mist, houses fading like breath. Mason looked at her once, his eyes already turning glassy. Then he was gone. When the fog lifted, only Emma remained. Cold Hollow was nothing but empty fields, and the broken bell lay in the grass, still warm. Far away, faintly, it rang one last time. And somewhere in America, another town heard it.